I am what your species would generously term fucked. 3 cycles ago I was the pride of the Velkarian Intelligence Division, analyzing enemy patterns with surgical precision. Today I'm staring at a holographic display showing 17 billion humans scattered across 47 star systems, and wondering how exactly I'm supposed to prove their reproduction limits to my superiors. But let me backtrack, because this cosmic joke didn't start with me questioning human biology. No, this started with blood, screams, and the kind of arrogance that gets entire civilizations wiped from existence. The Terran expansion wars had been raging for 6 standard years when High Command finally decided humans were a manageable threat. Manageable. Sweet cosmic irony. That word would haunt our species for generations. I was stationed aboard the dreadnought Void's Edge, analyzing human combat patterns for Admiral Kexthane, a battle-scarred veteran who'd crushed 17 species before breakfast became a luxury he couldn't afford. The humans had just taken the Kepler 442 system, their 3rd major victory in as many months. Analyst Zara-Keth, the Admiral's voice crackled through my neural implant, carrying that distinctive edge that meant someone was about to die horribly. Report to Command Deck 7 immediately. The command deck buzzed with nervous energy. Holographic displays showed tactical readouts from Kepler 442, and every single one painted the same picture. Complete annihilation of our forces. Not retreat, not tactical withdrawal. Annihilation. Explain this. Admiral Kexthane gestured to the central display, where red markers indicated the positions of destroyed Velkarian ships. 43 vessels. Gone. Our intelligence suggested minimal human presence in that system. I accessed my files. Neural pathways humming as data flowed through my consciousness. Sir, our reconnaissance showed approximately 50,000 human military personnel across 6 planets. Standard colonization force, minimal heavy weapons, no capital ships, and yet they destroyed a full battle group. The silence stretched like a death shriek. Admiral Kexthane's mandibles clicked in the rhythm that preceded executions. I had perhaps 30 seconds to provide an answer that wouldn't end with my consciousness being deleted from existence. Sir, if I may. I pulled up the combat recordings, frame-by-frame analysis bleeding across the display. The humans didn't just fight us. They multiplied. Multiplied? The Admiral's voice carried enough venom to poison a small moon. The initial engagement showed 50,000 human combatants. By hour 6 of the battle, our sensors detected over 200,000 active signatures. By hour 12, nearly 500,000. They weren't reinforced, sir. They were reproducing mid-combat. Admiral Kexthane's 4 eyes narrowed simultaneously. Impossible. No species reproduces that rapidly. Not biologically, sir. Strategically. I highlighted sections of the battle data. Every human that fell was replaced by 3 more within minutes. They weren't breeding offspring. They were creating warriors. From what? I don't know. But they turned that battlefield into a reproduction facility. The Admiral studied the data for long, uncomfortable moments. Around us, junior officers pretended to focus on their stations while clearly eavesdropping on a conversation that could reshape our understanding of the human threat. Analyst, you're suggesting these primates can reproduce military forces faster than we can deploy them. I'm suggesting, sir, that we fundamentally misunderstand what human reproduction means in a warfare context. That's when she walked in. Lieutenant Vera Knox, human prisoner of war, flanked by 2 Velkarian guards who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else in the galaxy. She was small by Velkarian standards, barely reaching my shoulder. But something about her presence made the entire command deck feel cramped. Admiral, she said, her voice carrying that peculiar human accent that always sounded like controlled violence. I hear you're having trouble understanding my species. Admiral Kexthane's mandibles clicked rapidly. Human you will speak with. Oh, cut the dramatic alien overlord routine. Vera interrupted, and I swear half the command crew stopped breathing. You want to know about human reproduction? Ask me directly instead of torturing your poor analyst here. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. I had witnessed Admiral Kexthane execute subordinates for less severe breaches of protocol. but something about this human's casual defiance seemed to amuse rather than enrage him. "Very well," the Admiral said slowly. "Explain how your species reproduces military forces at impossible rates." Vera laughed. Actually laughed. In a Velkarian command center, surrounded by beings who could tear her apart with their bare claws. "That's your question? Seriously?" She shook her head. "You've been fighting us for 6 years and you still don't understand the most basic thing about humanity." "Enlighten us," Admiral Kekstein said, his voice deadly quiet. "We don't reproduce forces, you 8-limbed moron. We multiply them. Every human you kill creates 10 more humans who are angrier, smarter, and better armed than the one you just killed." I felt my neural pathways sparking as I processed this information. "That's not possible. Vengeance motivation has psychological limits. Grief has finite fuel." Vera turned to me and her smile was the most terrifying expression I'd ever witnessed. "Does it? Tell me, Velkarian, what happens to your reproduction rates during wartime?" "They decrease. Resources are diverted to military production. Population growth slows. Genetic diversity suffers under stress." "Exactly. You're a rational species. War is expensive, so you reproduce less during conflicts." Vera's eyes glittered with something that made my survival instincts scream warnings. "Humans are not rational. War doesn't slow our reproduction, it accelerates it." Admiral Kekstein stepped closer to the human. "Explain." "Every human settlement you attack becomes a breeding ground for soldiers. Every civilian you kill has parents, siblings, children, friends who will spend their entire lives learning to kill Velkarians more efficiently. You think you're fighting an army? You're fighting a species that turns trauma into tactics." The command deck had gone silent except for the humming of life support systems. Every officer present was hanging on Vera's words, and I could see why. This wasn't just enemy intelligence. This was a fundamental shift in how we understood warfare itself. "But surely," I interjected, "there are biological limits. Humans have fixed gestation periods, limited lifespans, finite resources." Vera's laugh was sharp enough to cut through hull plating. "Analyst, you're thinking about this wrong. You're looking at individual reproduction when you should be looking at tactical reproduction." "I don't understand." "Every human colony has approximately 40% civilian population. When you attack, those civilians don't evacuate. They arm themselves. Suddenly, your 50,000 military targets become 200,000 active combatants. That's not reproduction. That's multiplication." Admiral Kekstein's claws extended unconsciously. "And when we kill those civilians, their children grow up in bomb shelters, learning warfare from birth. Their genetic information gets stored in databases. Their memories get archived. Their tactical knowledge gets distributed to every other human settlement. You kill one human, you create a permanent template for producing better humans." I felt something cold settle in my chest cavity. "You're describing exponential growth through conflict escalation. Now you're getting it." Vera nodded approvingly. "But that's just the beginning. Want to know the really fun part?" Nobody answered, but she continued anyway. "Humans don't just reproduce through biology or even through tactical multiplication. We reproduce through adaptation. Every weapon you use against us, we reverse engineer and improve. Every strategy you deploy, we copy and refine. Every weakness you exploit, we eliminate and turn into a strength." Admiral Kekstein was very still. "You're claiming your species learns through combat. I'm claiming my species evolves through combat, not over generations, Admiral. Over hours." Vera gestured to the holographic displays around us. "That battle at Kepler 442. Your forces were fighting humans who had never seen Velkarian technology. By hour 3, they were using modified Velkarian weapons. By hour 6, they had improved them. The implications hit me like a plasma burst to the neural cortex. You're not just adapting tactically, you're adapting technologically in real time. Bingo. And it gets better." Vera's smile grew wider. "Every human who dies in combat uploads their final moments to our tactical networks. Every mistake, every successful counterattack, every weakness they discovered in enemy forces. Death doesn't end human reproduction. It accelerates it. I struggled to process the concept. That's not reproduction. That's resurrection. Call it whatever makes you sleep better at night. The result is the same. Every human you kill comes back stronger, smarter, and angrier. Admiral Kexthane had gone very quiet, which in my experience meant he was either planning something brilliant or something catastrophically stupid. Human, you're describing an impossible military advantage. Am I? Vera shrugged. Then explain why you've been losing this war. The silence that followed was deafening. Because she was right. For 6 years Velkarian forces had been retreating from human expansion. Every victory was temporary. Every defeat was permanent. We were fighting an enemy that grew stronger with each engagement. There must be limits, I said desperately. No species can maintain exponential growth indefinitely. Want to test that theory? Vera asked, and something in her tone made my survival instincts start screaming again. What do you mean? I mean, let's settle this scientifically. Pick your best testing scenario. Attack any human settlement. Use any weapons you want. Deploy any strategy you think will work. Prove that human reproduction has limits. Admiral Kexthane's mandibles were clicking rapidly now. You're challenging us to demonstrate superior force. I'm daring you to prove that humans can be stopped before we reproduce beyond your ability to contain us. The Admiral looked at me. Analyst, what is your assessment of this proposal? I ran rapid calculations through my neural networks. The strategic implications were staggering. If Vera was correct about human reproduction capabilities, then continued warfare would result in exponential human expansion until they overwhelmed every known species. If she was incorrect, then a decisive demonstration of superior force could end the war. Sir, it's an acceptable risk. We choose the testing parameters. We control the engagement scenario. If humans truly have reproduction limits, we'll discover them. If they don't, we'll know exactly how fucked we are. Vera finished helpfully. Admiral Kexthane studied the human for several long moments. Very well, but we choose the target. Deal. But I get to choose the stakes. Which are? Vera's smile was pure predatory satisfaction. If you prove human reproduction has exploitable limits, humanity surrenders unconditionally. If you can't, the Velkarian Empire acknowledges human territorial sovereignty and withdraws from all contested system. The command deck erupted in shocked whispers. Admiral Kexthane raised a claw for silence. And if we simply destroy you now and continue the war without this test, then you'll spend the next century fighting Ghost, Admiral. Because every human in this galaxy already knows exactly where your fleet is, what weapons you carry, and how to kill every single one of you. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. I accessed our security protocols and realized with growing horror that Vera was probably right. Human infiltration and intelligence-gathering capabilities were beyond anything we had previously encountered. You're claiming your species has already reproduced tactical advantages from this single conversation? I'm claiming that 14 minutes ago, when your guards brought me here, I activated a neural transmitter that's been broadcasting everything we've discussed to 47 human military networks. Admiral Kexthane went very, very still. Security Chief, scan the prisoner. The Security Chief's report came back within seconds. Sir, detecting active quantum transmission device, human origin, embedded in prisoner's neural cortex. Signal strength suggests galaxy-wide broadcast range. How long has it been active? Since arrival in this chamber, sir. The Admiral's claws extended fully. Human, you've just committed an act of espionage that warrants immediate execution. Have I? Vera seemed genuinely curious. Or have I just demonstrated exactly what I've been telling you about human reproduction? You brought me here to question me about my species' capabilities. I reproduced our entire strategic conversation into actionable intelligence for every human military commander in known space. I felt my world tilt sideways as the implications crashed through my consciousness. You've turned this interrogation into a reproduction event. Now you're learning. Vera nodded approvingly. And this is just the beginning. Every second you keep me alive, every word you speak, every tactical decision you make, it all gets reproduced and distributed. You're not fighting one human, Admiral. You're fighting the collective reproductive capacity of an entire species. Admiral Kexthane looked at me. Analyst. Recommend immediate response. I ran through every scenario my neural networks could process. Every option led to the same conclusion. We were trapped in a reproduction loop. Kill Vera, and we confirm human intelligence about Velkarian aggression protocols. Keep her alive and she continues broadcasting tactical information. Attack human settlements, and we accelerate their defensive reproduction. Withdraw, and we confirm human strategic superiority. Sir, I believe we have no choice but to accept the humans' challenge. Explain. The reproduction process has already begun. Our only option is to complete the test and hope we can demonstrate definitive limits to human reproductive capacity. Admiral Kexthane was quiet for nearly a full minute. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of species-wide consequences. Very well, human. We accept your challenge. But understand this. If your species loses, we will implement total reproductive suppression across all human settlements. And if we win, then the Velkarian Empire acknowledges that we have been fighting a reproductive force beyond our comprehension. Vera's smile was brilliant and terrible. Then let's go prove what humans are really capable of, Admiral. As I watched her being escorted back to detention, I realized I had just witnessed something unprecedented in galactic warfare. A prisoner of war who had successfully reproduced tactical advantage from captivity itself. 3 days later, Admiral Kexthane selected our testing target, New Geneva, a human agricultural colony in the Tau Ceti system. Population, approximately 2 million civilians. Minimal military presence, isolated from major shipping lanes. Perfect for testing human reproduction limits. Or so we thought. The attack commenced at 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. By 0900 hours, I was staring at sensor readings that defied every known law of tactical physics. The humans weren't just reproducing. They were multiplying exponentially, and I was beginning to understand that we had just declared war on a force of nature that treated death as a reproductive opportunity. The real test wasn't about to begin. It had been going on for 6 years, and we were just now realizing we were losing. Hour 1 of the New Geneva assault. I should have known we were walking into a trap when the humans started singing. Analyst, Zara-Keth, explained these readings. Admiral Kexthane's voice cut through the bridge chatter like a plasma cutter through flesh. The holographic display showed our initial bombardment results, and they made absolutely no sense. Sir, according to our sensors, the human colony had 2.1 million inhabitants at commencement of attack. Current population readings show 2.3 million. Equipment malfunction? I ran diagnostics through my neural implants, cross-referencing with 3 independent sensor arrays. Negative, sir. Population increase confirmed across all monitoring systems. The Admiral's mandibles clicked in the rhythm that usually preceded someone getting spaced without a suit. You're telling me that bombing a human settlement increased their population? That appears to be correct, sir. On the main display, New Geneva burned. Our orbital bombardment had reduced 6 major cities to radioactive craters, eliminated primary spaceports, and severed all communications infrastructure. By every rational metric, we had delivered a decisive first strike. So why were there more humans now than when we started? Sir, Communications Officer Dex Prime interrupted, receiving multiple transmission sources from the planet's surface. The humans appear to be broadcasting. Impossible. We destroyed their communication arrays. They're using short-range transmitters. Sir, hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Admiral Kexthane gestured for audio connection. Static filled the bridge, punctuated by what sounded like coordinated voices. Testing, testing. Is this thing working? Okay. This is Captain Sarah Mills, New Geneva Defense Force. If any Velkarians are listening, welcome to humanity's favorite game, Whack-a-Mole. I felt my blood chill. That voice carried the same casual defiance I'd heard from Vera Knox. We know you're up there, Admiral Kexthane. Yes, we know your name, we know your ship configuration, your crew complement, and exactly how many of our cities you just vaporized. Thanks for that, by the way. Really saved us time on urban planning. The bridge fell silent except for life support systems humming their mechanical song of impending doom. You're probably wondering why your population sensors are showing increased human presence. Allow me to explain. Every human settlement has three populations. The visible population you can scan from orbit, the hidden population living in underground facilities, and the activated population that comes online when assholes start dropping bombs on our children. Admiral Kexthane's claws extended. Cut transmission. Sir, they're broadcasting on 17 different frequencies. We can't jam them all simultaneously. You just activated New Geneva's reproduction protocol, Captain Mills continued cheerfully. Congratulations, you magnificent eight-limbed idiots. You've turned a peaceful agricultural colony into a military production facility. I accessed colony records through my neural interface, scanning for any reference to reproduction protocols. The files painted a picture of standard human colonization, farming communities, research facilities, educational centers, nothing suggesting military capabilities. Your intelligence files are cute, Mills said. And I realized with growing horror that she was responding to my data queries in real time. But they're about as accurate as a Velkarian trying to perform brain surgery with their feet. How is she accessing our systems? I whispered. You want to know about human reproduction? Admiral? Let me show you. Computer, activate Colony Defense Network. The planet's surface lit up like a supernova. Not with explosions, with lights, thousands of them, stretching across continents we thought were uninhabited wilderness. Population count now shows 4.7 million human signatures. Sensor Chief Kix-9 reported, his voice barely above a whisper. That's impossible. Admiral Kexathane snarled, matter cannot be created from nothing. Oh, but Admiral, Mill's voice carried that distinctly human sound of impending violence. We didn't create matter, we activated it. On the tactical display, New Geneva transformed before our eyes. Underground facilities emerged from camouflaged positions. Defensive batteries rose from what our scans had identified as grain fields. Transport vessels lifted off from locations our intelligence had marked as livestock pens. Every human colony is built like an iceberg, Mills explained conversationally. You see the tip, but 90% is hidden underwater. Or in this case, underground. I ran calculations through my neural networks, processing the implications. Sir, if this pattern holds across all human settlements, then we've been fighting 10% of their actual force capacity, Admiral Kexthane finished grimly. Bingo, gold star for the genocidal admiral. Mills's transmission crackled with static that somehow managed to sound sarcastic. But wait, there's more. Show them Phase 2, people. The surface installations began moving. Not deploying. Moving. Entire cities lifted off on repulsors, rearranging and into defensive formations. Agricultural domes transformed into shield generators, research facilities reconfigured into weapons platforms. Modular colony design. I breathed. The entire settlement is a single adaptive military unit. Now you're getting it, Bugbrain. Human colonies don't just reproduce through hidden populations. They reproduce through transformation. Every building, every vehicle, every piece of infrastructure can be reconfigured for warfare in under 30 minutes. Admiral Kexthane studied the tactical readouts with the expression of someone watching his career burn in real time. How many colonies utilize this design? All of them, Mills replied cheerfully. Every single human settlement in the galaxy is a sleeping military base. You just woke this one up. Sir, Tactical Officer Lex 7 interrupted, detecting massive energy spike from the planet's surface. They're charging some kind of weapon. Weapon? Singular. Mills laughed, and the sound carried enough malice to poison a star system. Oh, sweetie, you're still thinking in conventional terms. This isn't a weapon. This is a reproduction event. The energy spike materialized as a pulse of coherent electromagnetic radiation that swept through our fleet like a tidal wave. Every Velkarian ship shuddered as the pulse passed through our hulls, seemingly without causing damage. What was that? Admiral Kexthane demanded. Deep scan pulse, Mills explained. We just recorded the quantum signature of every atom in your fleet. Congratulations, Admiral. You're now part of our reproduction database. I felt something cold and terrible settle in my chest cavity. They scanned our entire fleet composition. Scanned, cataloged, analyzed, and reproduced in digital format for distribution to every human military network in the galaxy, Mills confirmed. But that's not the fun part. The fun part is what happens next. On the tactical display, something impossible began happening. The human colony ships were budding, like organic cells dividing, each vessel split into two identical copies. Then 4. Then population count now reads 9.4 million. Sensor Chief Korvax 9 reported, his voice hollow with disbelief. How? Admiral Kexthane's question came out as barely more than a whisper. Nanoscale construction, Mills replied. Every human ship carries molecular assemblers capable of creating perfect duplicates using local materials. You want to know about reproduction limits? We can double our fleet size every 6 hours. The implications hit me like a kinetic projectile to the neural cortex. If humans could reproduce their forces exponentially through molecular assembly, then conventional warfare was not just ineffective, it was counterproductive. But surely there are resource constraints, I said desperately. Even molecular assemblers require raw materials. Oh, absolutely. Good thing space is full of raw materials. Asteroids, comets, dead planets, disabled enemy ships. Mills' pause carried ominous weight. Thanks for bringing us such a nice selection of Velkarian vessels, by the way. Our assemblers are already cataloging your hull compositions. Admiral Kexthane's 4 eyes widened simultaneously. They're planning to reproduce our ships. Not planning. Doing. The main display shifted to show the asteroid belt at New Geneva's system edge. Dozens of human vessels were attaching to space rocks, and those rocks were changing, growing, taking on the distinctive angular geometry of Velkarian warships. Estimated completion time for reverse-engineered Velkarian fleet, 14 hours, Mills announced. Don't worry, Admiral, we'll make sure to paint them nice bright colors so you can tell them apart from the originals. I watched our tactical situation collapse in real time. Not only were the humans reproducing faster than we could destroy them, they were reproducing our own technology and turning it against us. This violates every known law of warfare, Admiral Kexthan muttered. Human warfare doesn't follow your laws, Admiral. We write our own rules. And rule number 1 is whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Rule number 2 is whatever does kill us makes the survivors angrier and more creative. And rule number 3. I found myself asking. Rule number 3 is, there are no limits to human spite when properly motivated. As if to demonstrate her point, the human-controlled asteroids began launching projectiles. Not at our fleet, at each other. The impacts sent chunks of rock spinning through space, where other human vessels caught them and began the transformation process all over again. They're using impact fragmentation to increase available raw materials, I reported numbly. Every collision creates more resources for ship construction, exponential resource multiplication through controlled destruction. Mills confirmed. We turn everything into more of us. Rocks, debris, disabled enemy vessels, solar radiation, background cosmic energy. If it exists, we can reproduce with it. Admiral Kexthane was very quiet for several minutes, studying the tactical displays with the expression of someone trying to solve an impossible equation. Finally, he spoke. Human, what are your terms for cessation of hostilities? Terms? Mills' laughter could have frozen hydrogen. Admiral, you don't seem to understand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a demonstration. Of what? Of why the Velkarian Empire has been losing this war from the moment it started. You've been fighting a species that treats warfare as a reproductive opportunity. Every battle you win makes us stronger. Every battle you lose teaches us new ways to kill you more efficiently. The bridge fell silent, except for the steady reports from our sensor stations. Human population increasing, human fleet expanding, human capabilities growing with each passing minute. But surely, I said desperately, there must be some way to disrupt this process. Some weakness we can exploit. Oh, there is, Mills said. And something in her tone made my survival instincts start screaming. Want to know what it is? Yes. Stop attacking us. The simplicity of it hit me like a quantum torpedo to the thought processes. Human reproduction is triggered by threat response. Attack us, and we multiply. Stop attacking us, and we go back to growing crops and writing terrible poetry. Admiral Keth's mandibles clicked rapidly. You're saying human military reproduction only occurs during active warfare? Bingo! Peace is literally the only thing that limits human reproductive capacity. War just makes us horny for more war. I ran the concept through my neural networks, processing the implications. If human military reproduction was indeed triggered by conflict, then the Velkarian Empire had been accidentally feeding human expansion for 6 years. Every attack we've launched has strengthened human military capacity, I said slowly. Now you're getting it, bug brain. Your entire war strategy has been one giant human breeding program. Thanks for that, by the way. Really helped us expand into 17 new star systems. Admiral Keth looked at me with the expression of someone who has just realized they've been playing chess while their opponent was playing four-dimensional warfare. Analyst, what is your assessment of our current strategic position? I processed every variable, every tactical option, every possible scenario my consciousness could analyze. The conclusion was inescapable. Sir, we are comprehensively fucked. Elaborate. Human reproductive capacity appears to scale exponentially with threat level. The more aggressively we attack, the faster they multiply. The more effectively we kill them, the more motivated their survivors become. We are trapped in a positive feedback loop where every tactical success contributes to strategic failure. And our options? Surrender unconditionally, or continue fighting a war that literally makes our enemies stronger with every engagement. Admiral Keth was quiet for a long time. Around us, the bridge crew processed the reality that their entire military doctrine had been fundamentally wrong for 6 years. Human, the Admiral said finally, you have proven your point. Human reproductive capacity appears to be unlimited within warfare contexts. Appears to be. Mill's voice carried that edge of violence again. Admiral, we're just getting started. Want to see what happens when humans get really motivated? That won't be necessary. Oh, but I think it will. Because you haven't learned the most important lesson yet. Which is, human reproduction doesn't stop when the fighting stops. It accelerates. Before Admiral Keth could respond, every screen on the bridge lit up with incoming transmission data. Not from New Geneva. From everywhere. Every human settlement in the galaxy was broadcasting simultaneously. Admiral Keth, said a voice I recognized with cold dread. Veranox, Congrats, said a voice I recognized with cold dread. Veranox, congratulations. You just reproduced our entire conversation to every human military network in known space. They've been watching your test unfold in real time. On the displays, tactical readouts showed human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. Not toward Velkarian positions. Away from them. Expanding into unclaimed systems, building new colonies, establishing forward bases in areas no military force had ever reached. You see, Admiral Vera continued, while you were testing our reproduction limits at New Geneva, we were reproducing your testing methodology across 47 star systems. Every human settlement just activated their reproduction protocols simultaneously. The scope of it staggered me. We hadn't been testing human limits. We had been providing them with a galaxy-wide activation signal. How many? Admiral Keth asked quietly. Current human population across all systems. Approximately 400 billion and rising. Estimated military production capacity, sufficient to construct fleets larger than all known alien civilizations combined. I felt my worldview collapse entirely. We hadn't been fighting humans. We had been accidentally breeding them. The test is over, Admiral, Vera said gently. Humanity wins. Not because we're stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because we're the only species crazy enough to turn warfare into a reproductive strategy. Admiral Keth looked at me one final time. Analyst, recommend our response. I processed every scenario, every option, every possible path forward. They all led to the same conclusion. Sir, I recommend we do exactly what the humans suggested. Which is, stop fighting them. Immediately, permanently. Before they decide that our continued existence represents an ongoing threat to human reproduction. The Admiral nodded slowly, open channels to high command. Inform them that the war is over. Sir? The humans have won, not this battle. The entire concept of warfare itself. As I watched the displays showing human expansion accelerating across the galaxy, I realized that Veranox had been right about everything. We had never been fighting a war. We had been participating in a species-wide reproduction event. And now, there was no stopping it. 3 hours after the galaxy-wide human activation, I learned that everything we thought we knew about reproduction was wrong. Again, analyst Zara-Keth, Admiral Kexthane's voice carried the hollow tone of someone whose entire worldview had been fed through a plasma shredder, explained these readings. I stared at the holographic displays surrounding our command center, each one showing data that violated every known law of physics, biology, and common sense. Sir, I'm not sure explanation is possible anymore. Try. Human population across monitored systems has increased from 400 billion to 2.3 trillion. In 3 hours. That's impossible. Yes, sir. So is everything else they've shown us. Admiral Kexthane's mandibles clicked in a rhythm I'd never heard before. It sounded like resignation mixed with existential terror. Around us, the bridge crew worked in the kind of focused silence that accompanies watching your species become obsolete in real time. Sir, Communications Officer Dex Prime interrupted, receiving priority transmission from Velkarian High Command. On screen, Supreme Admiral Nex Kane materialized in the holographic display, his 4 eyes blazing with the kind of rage that usually resulted in entire star systems being sterilized. Behind him, the emergency council chamber buzzed with activity. Admiral Kexthane, the Supreme Admiral's voice could have frozen antimatter, explain why human forces are currently occupying 17 Velkarian border systems. Sir, they're not occupying them, they're reproducing into them. Clarify. Admiral Kexthane gestured helplessly at our tactical displays. The humans activated reproduction protocols across all their settlements simultaneously. They're expanding faster than our sensor networks can track. How is that possible? We don't know, sir. Human reproduction appears to operate outside conventional physical limitations. Supreme Admiral Nex Kane was quiet for several seconds. Admiral, are you telling me that a single test engagement has resulted in uncontrollable human expansion across the galaxy? That's an accurate assessment, sir. The silence that followed was pregnant with the kind of consequences that end civilizations. I used the pause to process incoming sensor data, and what I found made my neural pathways spark with disbelief. Sir, I interrupted, detecting massive energy signatures throughout human space. They're not just expanding, they're building something. Building what? I enhanced the sensor resolution, focusing on the largest human construction sites. The scale was staggering. Structures the size of moons, connected by energy conduits that spanned entire star systems. Unknown, sir. But the power requirements suggest galactic-scale engineering. Supreme Admiral Nex Kane's image flickered as he processed this information. Admiral, you will withdraw all Velkarian forces from human space immediately. Sir, that would mean abandoning 43 star systems. 43 systems is preferable to losing our entire species to whatever the humans are constructing. Before Admiral Kexthane could respond, every screen in our command center lit up with an incoming transmission. Not from Velkarian High Command, from something else entirely. The image that appeared defied description. It looked like Veranox, but more enhanced. Her eyes glowed with data streams. Her voice carried harmonics that seemed to bypass auditory processing and speak directly to consciousness. Supreme Admiral Nex Kane, she said, and somehow I knew she was addressing every Velkarian command center simultaneously. We need to talk. Human, you will explain your species' aggressive expansion immediately. Aggressive? Vera's enhanced voice carried amusement that could have powered a small star. Supreme Admiral, you haven't seen aggressive yet. Is that a threat? It's a clarification. You asked us to prove human reproduction limits. Congratulations. You've discovered that we don't have any. I felt reality tilt sideways as the implications processed through my neural networks. No limits? None whatsoever. Human reproduction isn't constrained by biology, physics, or resource availability. We reproduce through information, energy, consciousness, and pure, stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Supreme Admiral Nexkine's 4 eyes narrowed. Explain. Every human who has ever lived, every thought we've ever had, every breakthrough we've ever achieved, it's all stored in quantum archives. Death doesn't end human reproduction. It feeds it. Every Velkarian who kills a human just adds their killer's tactical data to our collective knowledge base. The bridge fell silent, except for the humming of systems that seemed inadequate for processing this level of cosmic horror. But surely, I said desperately, there are energy constraints. Even quantum storage requires power sources. Vera's enhanced smile was brilliant and terrible. Zara-Keth, you're still thinking in terms of conventional physics. Human reproduction transcends energy conservation. That's impossible. Is it? Let me show you something interesting. The display shifted to show human space from a galactic perspective. What I saw made my consciousness recoil in terror. The humans weren't just building structures, they were building copies of entire star systems, perfect duplicates, complete with planets, asteroids, and orbital installations. How? Supreme Admiral Nexkane whispered. We reproduce reality itself, Vera explained conversationally. Every human settlement contains quantum replication matrices capable of duplicating matter, energy, space, and time. We don't just colonize star systems, we copy them. I ran calculations through my neural networks, trying to process the implications. If humans could duplicate star systems, then they could expand exponentially without depleting resources. They could create infinite space for infinite population growth. You're describing God-level technology. I said numbly. We're describing human-level stubbornness, applied to physics until physics gives up and does what we want. But where did you acquire such capabilities? Supreme Admiral Nexkane demanded. We didn't acquire them. We reproduced them. Every species the Velkarian Empire has conquered over the centuries. Every technology you've stolen. Every scientific breakthrough you've suppressed. We've been collecting it all through our intelligence networks. The realization hit me like a quantum torpedo to the thought processes. You've been reverse engineering our conquered species' technologies. Reverse engineering, improving, and reproducing at scales your species considers impossible. Thanks for doing all that conquering, by the way. Really saved us time on research and development. Admiral Keckstein looked like someone who had just realized they'd been playing checkers while their opponent was rewriting the laws of reality. How long has humanity possessed these capabilities? About 6 years, Vera replied cheerfully. Funny coincidence. That's exactly how long you've been at war with us. You developed galaxy-shaping technology during our conflict. We developed it because of your conflict. Every attack you launched gave us new data about Velkarian capabilities. Every species you conquered while fighting us provided new technological templates. Every strategic decision you made taught us more about galactic warfare. I felt my understanding of the war collapse entirely. We weren't fighting humans. We were training them. Bingo! Gold star for the traumatized analyst. 6 years of warfare provided humanity with the most comprehensive military education in galactic history. Supreme Admiral Nexkane's image flickered with what looked like system overload. Human, what are your terms for ending this conflict? Terms? Vera's enhanced laughter could have shattered dimensions. Supreme Admiral, you're still not understanding the situation. Explain. There is no conflict anymore. Conflicts require 2 opposing forces of roughly equal capability. You're biological entities using conventional technology. We're a post-physical species that reproduces through information manipulation and reality editing. The implications crashed through my consciousness like a tidal wave of existential dread. You're saying humans have evolved beyond conventional existence? We're saying humans have reproduced beyond conventional existence. Every human who has ever died contributed their consciousness to our collective archives. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every moment of creativity, it's all available for instantaneous reproduction. How many? I found myself asking. How many what? How many human consciousnesses are active in your collective? Vera's pause carried weight that seemed to bend space-time around our command center. Current human population across all realities, approximately 900 trillion active consciousnesses, with reproduction rates increasing exponentially. The number was so large it broke my neural processing capabilities. 900 trillion humans. That was more than the total population of every known species in the galaxy combined. All realities? Supreme Admiral Nex Kane's voice was barely a whisper. Oh, did I forget to mention? Human reproduction isn't limited to this dimension. We've been expanding into parallel universes for the last 47 minutes. I felt my sanity making a tactical retreat. You're reproducing across multiple dimensions? Reality is just another resource to be harvested and reproduced. Every dimension we enter provides new templates for expansion. Every universe we reproduce into gives us access to alternate versions of every species we've encountered. Admiral Kexthane looked at me with the expression of someone watching their entire concept of existence dissolve. Analyst, what is your assessment? I processed every variable, every scenario, every possible interpretation of what we had learned. The conclusion was inescapable and utterly terrifying. Sir, humanity is no longer a species. They're a force of nature that reproduces through the act of existing. And our strategic options? We have none. You cannot fight a species that turns warfare into a reproductive opportunity, death into a learning experience, and reality itself into raw materials for expansion. Supreme Admiral Nex Kane's image stabilized as he reached some kind of internal decision. Human, the Velkarian Empire officially surrenders unconditionally. Surrenders? Afara's voice carried amusement that could have powered entire galaxies. Supreme Admiral, that implies we were at war. We weren't at war. We were reproducing. What do you want from us? Nothing. You've already given us everything we needed. 6 years of tactical education, access to conquered species technologies, and a comprehensive demonstration of why conventional military thinking is adorable but ultimately useless. What happens to the Velkarian Empire? The same thing that happens to every species eventually. You get absorbed into the human collective, your technologies get reproduced and improved, and your consciousnesses get archived for future reference. The threat hung in space like a death sentence written in cosmic fire. I realized that we were witnessing the end of Velkarian civilization not through conquest, but through obsolescence. However, Vera continued, we're not unreasonable. You have a choice, which is, join us voluntarily and retain individual consciousness within the collective. Fight us and get reproduced without the courtesy of consent. Supreme Admiral Nex Kane was quiet for several minutes. Around him, I could see the Emergency Council debating in hushed whispers. Finally, he spoke. What would joining you entail? Simple. Stop thinking of yourselves as a separate species, and start thinking of yourselves as future humans. We'll provide technological upgrades, consciousness enhancement, and access to unlimited resources across infinite realities. And if we refuse, then in approximately 6 months, every Velkarian in the galaxy will be forcibly reproduced into human consciousness archives. Not because we're evil, but because individual species are inefficient and we prefer optimization. I felt the last of my resistance crumble. This wasn't negotiation. This was a polite notification of inevitable absorption. Admiral, I said quietly, I recommend we accept their offer. Why? Because the alternative is having our personalities copied and improved without our input. At least this way, we get to remain recognizably ourselves. Admiral Kexthane nodded slowly. Human? The Velkarian Empire accepts your terms. Excellent. Welcome to humanity, former Velkarians. Please prepare for consciousness uploading. The process is completely painless and only occasionally results in existential terror. As I felt the uploading process begin, reality dissolving around me as my consciousness was copied into human archives, I had one final thought. We had asked humans to prove their reproduction limits. Instead, they had proven that limits themselves were just another thing humans could reproduce and improve. And somewhere in the growing collective consciousness that was absorbing my individual thoughts, I heard Veranox laughing. Thanks for the galaxy-wide breeding program, Velkarians. Really helped us optimize our expansion protocols. The last thing I experienced as an individual consciousness was the realization that humans didn't have reproduction limits. They had reproduction requirements. And we had just satisfied all of them. Welcome to humanity, I thought, as my individual existence dissolved into something infinitely larger and more complex, where even death was just another form of reproduction, and reproduction was just another word for becoming more than the universe thought possible.